Joining us. Just pick that microphone there.
Here.
Curious, I mean, these events that on Fight Pass, they feel a bit bigger every time. Your thoughts on the event and tonight as it went?
Yeah, I thought it was great. The Fight Pass team and I have talked a lot about, how, just from my insights in competing in jiu-jitsu for so long, how we can kind of, improve the events, just little things here and there. And, they've listened to a lot of the things that we've talked about and things that I've said. And I think every event is just going to get better and better and better. And the kinks will be worked out as we go on. And, it's going to get serious. This event was, the crowd's amazing. I think we could definitely do a bigger crowd next time because, we're selling out. They're selling out every event. There's not that many people, but every event now is selling out. And, the rules, I think it's cool if they have like a hybrid rule set where they have it's not all EBI rules. They did rounds and they did a judge's decision. And then they had Roman's match went to a draw. So I think they're going to, implementing the EBI rules and maybe ADCC rules and judges' decisions, I think it's unique in the fact that it's not just one rule set across the board. Whereas if, EBI has just one rule set, who's number one has just one rule set. And you can kind of tailor the rule sets to the athletes where UFC athletes don't really practice the EBI rules that much. So, a round 10-9 decision is a little bit better and more comfortable for them. So I think it's really cool what they're doing with that.
Listen, we're an MMA-centric media core here, so obviously it feels bigger to us when it's on Fight Pass, but for you and someone who's involved at the highest level of the sport, when it is on this platform, do you feel like, we're getting newer eyes to the sport of jiu-jitsu?
For sure. The whole thing is just to take the average MMA fan, which is already involved in combat, and just to convert him to a jiu-jitsu fan. And then, that's better for everybody. It's better for us as athletes. It's better for the sport as a whole. There's more eyes in the sport. And then, you convert a UFC fan into a jiu-jitsu fan, and now you have more people going to seminars. You have more instructionals being sold. And you can convert your average MMA fan into an instructional DVD or a private lesson, and the bigger the sport is, the better it is for the athletes, better it is for everybody. And I think the UFC is doing a great job at really, going and taking grappling seriously and getting into the sport.
The final for the tournament, you were there, you were shouting instruction. How did you feel both athletes performed, and where did it go right for guys and where did it go wrong for guys?
I think it was really surprising that both guys are guard players, but neither guy wanted to play guard. I think that Felipe had a pretty good strategy coming out and trying to pull on the head and get Craig tired because Craig notoriously has a pretty terrible gas tank. But the round was only 12 minutes. Craig purposely negotiated a shorter time, so it's kind of hard to completely exhaust a guy in 12 minutes if your wrestling and hand fighting isn't high level. And then, Craig is very experienced on their EBI rules, so not really much happened in the regulation. Craig picked up a few singles, and not much happened. Neither guy played bottom position, so it was kind of just a boring wrestling match. And then tightly contested overtime match where Craig edged it out on ride time, which doesn't really surprise me because Craig has, a lot of time training with us doing the EBI rounds, and he's competed a bunch of times in EBI, whereas Felipe is more of like a traditional IBJJF, ADCC kind of athlete. So. Not much really happened, but I wouldn't have been surprised if Felipe won, and I also wouldn't have been surprised if Craig won. So,
elsewhere, Nicky Rod won and made a very public call out of you. I'm not sure if you managed to catch that call out or if you're heading to the back. Did you hear it?
No, but I got the gist of it. I mean, everybody wants the payday, right? So me and Nicky Rod will compete again for sure, but it's going to be in a tournament where he gets no relevancy off my name and he doesn't make any money for losing to me a third time in a row. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll compete again, but he's like, I want to fight some, he's trying to make the rules. Like, you're a brown belt, you won a random tournament. You couldn't even you barely beat Roberto Jimenez, the guy I called my submission on. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go out and hit a mounted armbar. Went out and hit a mounted armbar. You barely beat that guy, and he's 40 pounds lighter than you. So you don't call the shots, and you're not making any more money off my name. So I'll compete against him for sure. There's going to be another time, a time in the future where we will compete like ADCC, and that'll be me just going out and embarrassing him again, and he won't get any recognition or money from losing to me. Because you have to understand, when guys compete against me, they make 2 to 3 times as much as they usually would competing elsewhere. So Nicky Rod has literally no money, so calling me out is the easiest way to actually make some money and move out of my sauna and actually buy himself a house or rent an apartment or whatever he wants to do. So and I figured that was coming because that team relies on just the relevancy of me and talking about me to stay relevant themselves. I'm not really surprised that happened. And coming off of the performance that he had, like just doing nothing, not being able to take down Roberto, like not doing anything to Roberto in regulation, barely winning overtime, not really doing anything of significance with Wagner, having like a pretty tightly contested overtime until he strangled him, then getting his arm broken by Dan, who's a purple belt, and then wanting to call me out. I was like, dude, just stop. That's just a joke.
I'm assuming you weren't too impressed then with his specification that USADA needed to be involved and you both had to pass USADA testing before and after any potential competition.
Well, first of all, no, because steroids are not illegal in jiu-jitsu. Number two, I actually have a contract coming to Nicky Rod for USADA and WADA testing from now until the next ADCC. So interesting to see if he's going to sign that. Yeah, like I said, I make the rules. I name the time, I name the place, I name the rule set because I've earned that because I actually can win matches. Like Nicky Rod winning 3 matches in a row is actually impressive because like he's literally never done it before. So it's actually impressive that he actually has won 3 matches in a row now. He has slightly more wins now than he has. He used to have half as many losses as he has wins. Now he has the ratio got a little bit better tonight. Still has a 40% submission rate because EBI rounds don't count when you actually do statistics. So yeah, if you actually follow statistics, he sucks.
I nearly thought you were going to congratulate him on improving, but we took a left hand.
I mean, what did he really improve in? First of all, they have the long sleeve rash guards now, so they have to implement the no roll-up rule because Nicky Rod just took the rash guard and rolled it halfway up his arm because he doesn't actually want to do jiu-jitsu. He just wants to break grips and stall. And they just stalled to overtime. His overtime is like decent. He has explosive escapes and he can punch strangles in relatively well. But if you actually look at his jiu-jitsu during the regulation, he like literally doesn't know a single move. Like he like hit a like body lock pass on Dan, and can do that if he locks his hands. But other than like having a body lock, which he learned from me, because I would just body lock pass him repeatedly every time we trained, he literally doesn't know a single move besides that.
And last one for me, I think we could probably guess where your mind's at with this, but Craig Jones started a podcast, Nicky Rod wins tonight. The relationship between you and those guys has probably never been worse, or is it just the same as your opinion that they're just trying to get cloud off your name and you don't need to care about them?
No, I mean, you guys are going to ask questions and I'm happy to answer them. But, I think what happened at ADCC was pretty clear. Like the team split, a lot of the top guys went over there. And, we came home with 3 golds and a bronze and a silver, and they didn't win a single gold. So everyone's like, oh man, Gordon has no training partners. Who is he going to train with now? And then I just showed up and destroyed everybody. And then everyone's like, oh man, maybe it was the wrong decision. So yeah, it's they're going to win local stuff like this, and they'll beat the guys that are up and coming guys, and maybe even beat some of the guys who are ADCC medalists and champions. But there's a big difference between an ADCC champion and Gordon Ryan.
Hey, Gordon. Your body has been all over the news for the past month and a half. Do you get flattered that everyone talks about your body and how skinny you were and now how you're getting healthy and you're getting back up? Like, is it flattering or is it annoying?
It's just amazing to see the level of intelligence of the average Instagram commenter. It's like the only place worse, I think, than Instagram is maybe Reddit and YouTube. Like those are like the top 3 like dumbest people I've ever had to interact with. So yeah, I was like sitting around like 220, 225 pounds before my surgery. But I wasn't able to lift because I had strep throat and I was sick and I wasn't training. And then I lost like 20 pounds every week after surgery because I couldn't eat, I couldn't really drink anything. I was, taking IVs because I had my tonsils taken out. So I lost like 20 pounds. But then the second I started eating, I went right back up to like 225. And now I'm actually eating pretty well because I'm not on antibiotics anymore and my stomach's doing okay. And so now I'm like getting big and I'm starting to lift again and I'm not doing jiu-jitsu. So when I do jiu-jitsu, and I'm doing jiu-jitsu twice a day, it's hard for me to get big because I'm doing cardio all day. Well, now I'm just lifting weights and eating food, so now I'm actually able to get big. So now I'm like 240, so I'm like 10 pounds heavier, 15 pounds heavier than I normally am, but that's because I'm not doing jiu-jitsu again yet because I still have to wait for my nose to heal. So it's like a pretty standard, like if you actually like think about it for like more than 10 seconds, you would like be like, oh, that may actually make sense. But people are just so like, oh man, you see what happens? You see what happens when he's not on steroids? I'm like, no, I just like had a surgery and I was dying for 2 months.
How is your stomach?
It's doing a lot better. It's not 100%. It was doing really good until I was on 45 days of antibiotics for strep throat. I did like 4 rounds of antibiotics because they couldn't cure the strep throat. So I kind of relapsed a little there, and then I had a hard time swallowing pills after the surgery, so I had to like stop taking all my stomach medication for like a week or 10 days. But now that I'm back on, now I'm doing a lot better. Still not 100% for sure. I have my days where I'm still nauseous, but it's significantly better than it was. When I wasn't competing, and once I get back into training and I get the timing back and everything, and I'm back in competition shape, if my stomach stays like it is right now, at least I'll definitely be ready to compete relatively soon.
Do you have a kind of a date that you would like to compete again?
I'm shooting for Flow has an October show, so I'm going to try to do one of the Flow Grappling October shows as like a warm-up match to come back, and then I know that the Fight Pass Invitationals is happening here again December, I think 14th or 15th. They're gonna shoot for that one. So I'm gonna try to do October and December at least if I'm healthy, and then next year is kind of just riding the wave into ADCC, and then kind of doing just sporadic stuff here and there if I want to, and then ramp it up and do like 2 or 3 back to back as ADCC approaches.
So are you planning to grapple Felipe in December for the Invitational?
I don't think December for Felipe, just because of the fact that this is the longest I haven't trained. It's been like almost 4 months for me just dying. But I think definitely next year, maybe like during like International Fight Week or something during July, then it'll be a good build up because there'll already be a lot of traction because of ADCC. So I can do like last year where I kind of do like a warm-up match and then I do Felipe and I kind of we build the story into ADCC. So right now I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things because it's been so long since I've actually been able to be training because I haven't been healthy. So just dealing with that now and then playing it by ear and monitoring my health and hopefully be back out there soon.
Thanks, man.